The Bible says the whole earth, the whole world was covered. All the high hills were covered. The mountains were covered. Then the waters assuaged, which means to drop down. NIV says the waters receded. No, they didn't recede, and they weren't wild animals. NIV got it wrong twice in that verse. They were all perfectly tame animals during the flood. But the waters didn't recede. The waters assuaged. The Bible says the waters stood above the mountains. Psalm 104, verse 5 and 6. Hugh Ross teaches it was a local flood in the days of Noah. 15 cubits above the highest mountain, and it's a local flood? I'd like to see that happen. When I debated Hugh Ross, I said, Dr. Ross, do you believe in a worldwide flood in the days of Noah? He said, I believe in a universal flood. Well, that is just a deceitful answer, okay? I said, what do you mean a universal flood? He said, well, it flooded Noah's little universe. It flooded the valley that he lived in. I said, would you answer a question then for me, please? If it's just a local flood that floods Noah's valley, why would God tell Noah to build that huge boat and fill it full of animals and stay in there for a year? Why not tell Noah to move? This local flood idea is dumb, capital D, dumb. Okay. People say, well, if the world's covered with water, where did it all go? Okay. During the last few months of the flood, the unstable plates of the crust of the earth would begin to shift, and some places would sink down. Thin spots would sink down, other places lifted up. The water's going to rush off and fill in the hole very quickly, causing erosion very quickly. The Bible says in Psalm 104, at thy rebuke they fled. This is talking about the water. At the voice of thy thunder, they hasted away. The water rushed off. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys, unto the place which thou hast founded for them, which is the oceans. What happened was, the mountains lifted up, the water rushed off into the new low places. If we filled this auditorium 4 feet deep in water, preacher would be upset, I'm sure, but let's just do it for a science experiment, for the good of science. We're going to fill the auditorium 4 feet deep in water. Then we're going to get all the guys in the school to pick up that end of the building. They pick up that end, all the water is going to rush down, whoosh, over to this end of the building. It's common sense. If the earth were covered with water and some places began to sink down, other places are going to lift up. It's kind of like a water bed. How many have ever slept on a water bed before? Sure, if one place goes down, someplace else is going to lift up. The crust of the earth probably did a lot of flexing during the time of Noah's flood, and probably for the next few hundred or maybe even a few thousand years after the flood. Actually, I think this is still moving around a little bit, causing the earthquakes. There might still be water under the crust of the earth trapped. As some of the water escaped during the hydroplate theory idea, the plate would settle down, trapping water under there. There are still huge areas of trapped water. Did you know there are underwater, at the bottom of the ocean, underwater thermal vents? There's hot water squirting up from the bottom of the ocean. Well, duh, where is it coming from? Doesn't it have to come from down lower than that? There's still water in the crust of the earth, trapped down there. The ocean crust is pretty thin, about 3 to 5 miles thick. Continental crust is about 30 miles thick. Any earth science teacher can tell you that. That's been pretty well determined from reading the S&P waves when earthquakes take place. The earth is cracked up, I understand, and a bunch of plates are moving around, and they're still moving a little bit. Pensacola has 0 chance of an earthquake, according to this map. Some places have a real good chance of an earthquake. The cracks have been found, and they're still active, still moving. The earth would be like a big water balloon. It would be floating, flexing up and down. Now, we're talking just a few miles. On an 8,000-mile earth, a few miles of movement is close to 0 in scale here.